way construed as child-specific advice. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. It's April 1st, 2026, and it's the beginning of a month. I know I want everybody to take a deep breath. It's the beginning of a month, and here we like to refer to it as the April A month because autism, I think, is so uniquely specific to each individual person and to all the people that it connects that I don't think there's any one word that can describe this month for everybody. I know some of you, you're like, it's the action month, and other people, it's the acceptance, and it's the awareness, or it's the allies, or I mean, pick a word that fits for you is what I like to say. And let's run with that. I don't want to presume to know what this month means for you, but I know that there are some really great things happening this month. And I know that there are some people that are very overwhelmed by this month. So my advice always is take what's useful, and you don't have to deal with the rest of it. Put that to the side because none of us need to be overwhelmed. So anyway, good morning and welcome. I'm Shannon Penrod, and if you watch the show, I identify as a proud pony. A pony is a parent of a neurodiverse individual. Those are the words that my son gives to me to describe my relationship to his diagnosis. Now, you notice I use the word neurodiverse, and a lot of people will write in and tell me, Shannon, you got that wrong. The word is neurodivergent. And here's what I have to say. Part of our deal here is we want to respect the words that individuals use. And my son identifies with neurodiverse, not divergent. There's a whole reason why. But it doesn't matter. It's the word he uses. So it's the word I'm using to describe my relationship to his diagnosis. So, pony. And it makes me happy because it makes me feel like I have a ponytail, and I don't. So I guess maybe there was a day when I had a ponytail, and it seems like a very fun thing to think about. So there we go. And I'm very proud to be his mom. I'm very proud to be on the planet with him. And I'm proud of the journey that we have been on and all the people that we got to meet on this journey. I'm getting emotional, but it's true. It's very true. I'm very grateful. And I just want to say that many, many years ago, the first April that we came to after his diagnosis, was I overwhelmed. I didn't know which way was up. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know my community. I didn't know that I had people that had my back. But I will tell you that what I did was on a nightly basis, I would feel like I wasn't smart enough to be the best possible mom I could be for him. And so in my prayers, I would say, but I hope that there are smarter people who are investigating this, who are working on this, who are going to be able to explain things to me that I don't understand. And I'm so excited and proud that today we have one of those smarter people who's going to be joining us here on the show. Dr. James Adams is going to be with us, and and we got something great for you today. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things with him, but truly one of the brilliant minds who has been working on autism and autism research for a long time. So he's got some stuff that's so pivotal, you guys. I can't wait to share with you. He's been on the show before, but it's been way too long. So we're going to have him give us an update on the study that he was here talking about before. I'm not going to tease what it is because it's the whole thing. But some really new stuff that's going on. And when I say pivotal, I do mean pivotal. So that's coming up. I also want to take just a second to say that for this Autism A month that we're calling it, we always like to have a focus for the month. And one of the focuses that we're really trying to drill down on this year is the education, autism in the classroom, autism in education. So you're going to see throughout the month that we've got a lot of shows planned and a lot of guests planned that are really top notch. We're going to be live on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but every weekday we've got shows planned that will, if you follow us on Facebook, we're re-airing some of the best shows that we have and some of the best guests. But be tuned in to who's coming. Like, for instance, next week, we're having the lady from the Epic IEP. I just want to say, she's who I hope to grow up to be. Oh my goodness, she is just on fire with information about IEPs, best I've ever heard. And she's got the hair and everything looking just so. Things I can't do. Things I can't do. Things I've given up on. But once upon a time, I wanted to grow up to be like her. So I just love that she is going to be with us next week on the show, talking about how you can have an epic IEP too. So all of those things are things to look forward to. I'm glad you're here today, though. We're not doing any April Fools today. None of us are fools. We're not bringing any fools, none of that. But we are live right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and about a dozen other sites. Our fabulous producer, Chris Desmond, is going to show you on the screen some of the different ways that you can be connecting with the show, some of the different ways that you can be listening. Now, for those of you who like to watch, we're on all of those platforms, but the shows are all available on YouTube. We have 2 very robust YouTube channels. We've been doing this for more than 15 years, my friends. So there are videos. If you want to look and you want to search, just go on our YouTube channels. There's the Autism-Live YouTube channel, and then there is the Ask Dr. Doreen YouTube channel. I tell you, it's all there, right? You can search it. It's all free for you. If you're somebody who likes to listen, it's available wherever you get your podcasts. All you have to do is go there and look up Autism Live or Ask Dr. Doreen. If, however, you are listening in podcast and you would like to get it ad-free, that's a different thing, right? And some of you say to me, Shannon, I'm on the treadmill. I just don't want to be interrupted. If you want it with no ads, very easy way that you can get it by going to glow.fm/autism-live. Now, when you go there, you get everything that we do at the Autism Network. So that includes Autism Live and Ask Dr. Doreen. And it's one low $5 a month fee, and you get it ad-free. Anything we do shows up in your inbox, and it has no ads on it for $5 a month. We're not trying to make money off of you, but we do have to keep the lights on. So the advertising is there for a reason. And we know you're all adults. You accept that. One last thing before I get into the jargon of the day, I want to remind everybody, because maybe you're new here and you don't know what this is all about. This show, our whole purpose here is to provide information and inspiration. That's what guides us. That's what's been guiding us for over 15 years. Now, the other thing is that we want to provide this information and inspiration to the entire larger autism community. That starts with individuals who are themselves on the spectrum, because they are the beating heart of our community. And you will see that we've got some amazing guests who are going to be on the show this month talking from that perspective, because we believe that that's critical and important. Of course, they're the beating heart of our community, but we think it's important to include the people who love those individuals. That means the parents, the teachers, the clinical people, the researchers. Include them in the conversation, because together we hold hands and we can be good allies, be good accomplices to help support the rights of those individuals, because it means everything under the sun to us, right? So that's our larger autism community that we're trying to communicate to. And that's what we're doing here. If you watch the show, that we try to do the jargon of the day, because sometimes the jargon of the day is more than we can all handle, right? Jargon is supposed to be there to help us and to make us have an easier understanding of things, and yet sometimes it can sink the battleship. When we started doing this 15 years ago, our deal was that we would give you 2 definitions, one, the actual definition, and then we would make fun of all the jargon in the actual definition, and then we would give you a little bit easier way, an entree into understanding it. It's gotten so much better. We're still giving you 2 definitions, but we don't have to make fun of the definitions anymore. And that I'm really happy that we were a part of that. I don't think we single-handedly caused that, but I think we were a part of it, and I absolutely love that. So because of our guest today, I know this word is going to come up. And I don't know about you, I use this word, I've heard this word, and I was like, but do I really understand it? The word is neurotransmitters, and this is important stuff. You know, I wouldn't be talking about this on the show if I didn't think that this was important stuff, but it's critical stuff. And for our guest today, he is going to enlighten us as to why this is having such a big role in what is going on with us and with our kids. So let's take a look at our first definition for neurotransmitters. Here we go, strap in. Neurotransmitters are chemical messengers released by neurons, nerve cells, to transmit signals across a synapse to other neurons, other muscle cells, gland cells. They are essential for nervous system communication, regulating functions like mood, sleep, muscle movement, and cognition by acting as, and here we get into the more jargon here, excitatory, inhibitory, or modulatory signals. Okay, if you're a little confused by that, me too. I don't think it's anything to make fun of, but a little bit more than I could handle. So hopefully this next one, by the way, that's from the National Cancer Institute.gov. Okay, let's go to the next definition and see if we can get there. Neurotransmitters are chemicals that neurons use to communicate with one another, primarily at specialized areas called synapses. But what I love about the other definition is that, I go, okay, but why do I care about this? Because it affects all those things like mood and my ability to handle all the things that are coming at me. By the way, this definition is from Neuroscientifically Challenged. I'd never seen their site before, so that was a very fun thing. Okay, so what has this all got to do with anything? And you're like, Shannon, some of you are brilliant and you took the right classes in college, the ones that I did not take. And you're like, yeah, neurotransmitters. And we talk about neurotransmitters here on the show all the time. But I don't think that I've had enough of an understanding about what these things do and how big of a role they play and how you and I are moving through our day, but more importantly, how the people that we love on the spectrum are moving through their day and all the things that it could be affecting for them, which is why we have an amazing expert for us that's here. And I'm early. I'm hoping that he's there because I don't know, I just got to things faster. I guess there were other things I was supposed to talk to, but he's good. Okay, so our guest today is Dr. James Adams. He is the director of the Autism Asperger's Research Program at Arizona State University. His research focuses on the medical causes of autism and how to treat and prevent it, including the areas of, get this, nutrition. We're going to be talking specifically today about vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, carnitine, digestive enzymes, and special diets, because he's an expert in all that. Oxidative stress, gut bacteria, microbiota transplant. That's the study that he was doing that we're going to get the update on. Probiotics, toxic metals, and seizures. What an array of things for us to talk about with him. He has extensively researched prenatal supplements to reduce the risk of pregnancy complications and infant health problems, and has developed the first prenatal supplement tailored for each trimester. He has published over 180 peer-reviewed scientific articles, including over 70 related to autism. He is the president of a nonprofit autism nutrition research center, president of Autism Diagnostics, president of Gut-Brain Access Therapeutics, and the chair of the scientific advisory board of the Neurological Health Foundation. What a slacker. He's just not doing a thing. I mean, are you in awe yet? You should be. I also think it's incredible and noteworthy that he is also a parent of an adult daughter with autism. So thrilled to have him back to the show, Dr. James Adams.
Thanks, Shannon, very much for having me back.
I think I was so excited that you were coming that I just rushed through everything. But at first, before we do anything, welcome back. Was there anything that I got wrong in the jargon of the day? Because you're the expert. Anything you want to add? Anything?
Yeah, I think you did a great job covering the importance of neurotransmitters. As they said, they're important chemicals that help one neuron talk to another, so they affect all parts of our thinking and our brain function. And unfortunately, as we're going to talk about, there's a big problem for them for autism.
Yeah. And that's what you have been researching. Should we start there, or do you want to back up and give us the update on the study that you were on the show talking about before?
I think it's probably best if we start with the work on the neurotransmitters and go on from
Okay,
there. I think
let's do
it'll
that.
then set the stage.
Okay.
So we've made a major discovery that we've discovered that roughly 85% of children with autism have some corrupted versions of those neurotransmitters from their gut bacteria and yeast. Over 40 studies have measured levels of individual corrupted versions of these metabolites. And what we've done is we've found some people have one, some people have another. But when we look at all of them, we've created a test panel of 17 of these. And we found that almost every child with autism has one or more of these metabolites, these chemicals from gut bacteria and yeast that interfere with normal neurotransmitter function. In particular, they interfere with dopamine and serotonin and have a big effect on your thinking, your cognition, and on your mood, your overall happiness, your attention. And serotonin goes on to make melatonin. That's the hormone that regulates sleep. And we know many people with autism also have sleep problems. So this is just a really major discovery that we've been able to put this all together into one test, but we have over 40 published research studies by other groups showing that these chemicals are abnormal in autism. We know that for some of these chemicals, if you put them into a mouse, it causes autistic symptoms in that mouse. But if that mouse gets a gut transplant from a healthy mouse, they recover from their autism symptoms. And that's what we've seen in our studies with children with autism. So we now have not only a diagnostic test for this problem, but we now have a treatment for it. We've been conducting several clinical trials of what's called microbiota transplant to treat these challenges. So that's kind of a quick overview, Shannon. I don't know if you want me to go into more detail or if you want to start with questions about the test.
Yeah, I really want to know about this test. So, I want the nitty gritty from beginning to end. So, if I have a child and I'm concerned about my child, they may already have a diagnosis, may not have a diagnosis, but I suspect that something's going on gut wise, especially. Where would I get the test, and how does the test? Is it a blood test? Is it saliva? What do we need to have from the child?
Yeah, so it's a very simple urine test. All you need to do is collect a little bit of pee in a cup, put it in a tube, and ship it off to the lab. So we work with a lab currently in the UK, and they have a deal with FedEx where anyone in the world can send them in a urine sample. So if you just go to their website, order a test kit, they'll ship it to your door. You have your child pee in a cup, put it in the little vial, send it back by FedEx to them, and in a couple of weeks, you'll have the test results. And the test results will let you know if you have a bacterial infection or a yeast infection. Often kids with autism have both. It will let you know if the bacteria or yeast are affecting dopamine or serotonin or both. And it will also, a special bonus of that test is also tests for gluten and casein. So it lets you know if your body is not digesting it so that it's leaking out of your gut into your urine. And so it's also a way to know if you should be going ahead and trying a gluten-free or casein-free diet. So we're really excited about this test because we just launched it a few months ago in the UK. And in about a month, it will be available in the US as well. So people don't even have to ship samples overseas. But the test is really powerful for two reasons. Back when my daughter was diagnosed, we had to go to several experts. And even though she was severe, it took a while to get an autism diagnosis. Our test, we've assessed in children as young as age 2 years. So it's a screening test to see is your child at high risk of autism. we've done a study with 50 children with autism, 50 typical kids, and we find that 85% of the kids with autism test positive. They have a gut infection versus none of the typical kids because we set the cutoff so high. So it's only the kids with autism who have these extremely high levels of chemicals from gut bacteria and yeast, that they have a really bad gut infection, and those bacteria and yeast are producing these chemicals that are known, some of which are known to cause autistic symptoms in animals and correlate with worse autism symptoms in humans. And when we treat kids with our microbiota transplant, the levels of those chemicals go down and the gut symptoms improve, their autism symptoms improve. So does that answer your question, Shannon?
I mean, it's pretty amazing. So if here in the United States today, I can't get it today, but in about a month I can get it?
You can order it from the UK. You can go to their website
Okay.
today and order it. They'll ship it to you and it'll come back. But in a month, we'll also have the same test available directly in the US.
Okay. Do we know how much it costs?
It's approximately $350.
Okay.
Because it's sold in Britain, you know, the price of British pounds fluctuates a little bit,
I
but
see.
it's about $350 US.
And once it's available in the US, is that price going to change at all or it's going to be the same?
It'll be about the same price.
Okay. But, you know, I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at, but what you're getting from it is so huge. An understanding of, because I don't know any place else, that you could go to any doctor to get this kind of result back, to know whether your child is somebody who should be potentially on the gluten-free, casein-free diet. We get parents every day asking us, and we just tell people, try it, but it's hard for a lot of parents. And if it's not going to have a benefit, it's expensive. You want to talk $350, go to the grocery store and try to get gluten, which it's worth it if your child is having a positive result from it. But if, you know, in the beginning, when you don't know, that's a hard pill to swallow. So first of all, that, but to understand if your child has a gut issue, an infection, or a dopamine, I don't even know, where would you go? You can't get that just by going to your pediatrician.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge is that the average age of diagnosis in the US is estimated about 4.5 years. But I have older teenagers contact us saying they were just diagnosed, even adults contacting us saying they were just diagnosed. So now it's so exciting to have a test to screen for.
Yes.
Do you have a problem, which we see in 85% of kids with autism? There are about 10% or so who have a single gene disorder and don't have this problem. So the ones who don't test positive, so we don't catch every case of autism, we've seen that most of those cases involves a major single gene disorder, similar to Fragile X or that kind of thing. But most people without those single gene disorders test positive. And again, we know we're learning a lot about these chemicals. So it's not only good for screening, but it also tells you how bad that infection is. Is it just is it just slightly elevated, or is it hugely elevated? Do you have one metabolite that's high? Do you have 9 that's high? Some of these chemicals can be 10, 100, 1,000 times higher in someone with autism than in a typical person. A simple way of thinking of it is that, let's take yeast. Yeast can make alcohol, and in your gut, your yeast are making a very tiny amount of alcohol, and we know the effects of alcohol in the brain. But these metabolites, some of them are 100 times more toxic than alcohol. So some of these metabolites, a simple way of saying it is that many kids with autism are drunk on these metabolites from their gut bacteria and yeast. Just the same way that alcohol affects your ability to regulate your emotions, makes it harder to think, harder to learn, harder to speak if you're drunk. That's what we think is the issue with many of these children with autism, and 40 studies back us up.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, I remember, we didn't know if my son had a yeast issue, and there was a test that we could do. But I will say this, for that test, we had to get poop, which is so much harder to get than pee. picture me wrapping our toilet in saran wrap, okay? I don't need to go further than that. And how traumatized he was by that, in order to get back the result that you can get. It's so much easier to get the P, you guys. So much easier. And that test was more than $350. Here's my next question, though, is I would assume that insurance is not yet paying for that test, but is there a way to get, you know how you have your HSA, FSA, can you use your money towards the test? Do you know?
You can certainly use your HSA money for it.
Okay.
We're happy to work with anyone who has insurance. Again, this is a brand new test. Our lab just received CLIA approval to be offering the test. And so it's a brand new test, so we don't have any insurance companies currently covering it, but we'll provide the information so you can go ahead and request reimbursement if you want. But we are going to work hard. We have additional studies that we're working on, so we hope to eventually get it FDA approved as well. And again, just make it more convincing to insurance companies that they should offer it. Just to give you an idea of just for the yeast part alone, in a survey done by Autism Research Institute of 23,000 families, of all the medications that have been used, the top two rated medications for autism were two antifungals, nystatin and diflucan. And so to realize that families feel these are very safe and very beneficial if you have a yeast infection. But the problem with yeast infections, we published a study a year ago showing you can have a high yeast infection associated with worse autism symptoms, but it doesn't affect the gut. So if the only symptom is worse autism symptoms, that's not much of a clue that you have a yeast infection. So that's why having a test is so powerful. The estimate is about 40% of people with autism have a yeast infection.
Yes, and I can speak to once my son had the intervention for the yeast, it was such a game changer. I mean, the difference was night and day, and his ability to be able to learn. Because it was like trying to teach a drunken elf. That's what we called him, was the drunken elf. And he did a yeast protocol, and suddenly he just took off and learned, and he was an amazing sponge. So, which is the other part of this, because once you have the test result, it's not just that you're left alone. You have answers for what to do to intervene depending on what the test results show. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've formed a nonprofit 13 years ago, the Autism Nutrition Research Center, and we've added on a consultant who families can call and show the results to from our test, and then ask for help interpreting it. So the labs aren't allowed to interpret the test results. They'll give the results. And because it's such a new test, most physicians won't be familiar with it. So that's why we have a consultant, very inexpensive, $40 for a half-hour meeting with them if you need help interpreting the test results and guidance on what are possible treatments to consider next. So antifungals for yeast infections. Bacterial infections are a lot trickier to treat, but probiotics, changing diet, digestive enzymes, there are many things that can be done to try to help treat those. But we think the most important is our microbiota transplant therapy, and that's what we're still doing clinical trials on to get it approved by the FDA.
Okay, so when we're going to backtrack about, it was pre-pandemic that we had you on to talk about this. Now, it's a very common thing in the medical world, something called a fecal transplant that they've been doing for years. Everybody gets a little grossed out when we talk about it, but for people who have, big gut issues, for years, they've been taking the feces from people who have good gut bacteria and transplanting it, up the butt. I don't know what all the words are, but I'm just going to keep it layman's terms. But they've been doing that, and they call it a fecal transplant. And I know people who have done it, and it's life-changing for them. We're talking about adults. But then we had you on to talk about this microbiota, which is a bit different because, but same kind of idea, but you're talking about having it, that bacteria get in the stomach as opposed to the large intestines, correct?
Yeah. So for fecal transplant, that's traditionally been used for people with life-threatening diarrhea, a condition called Clostridium difficile. It's a terrible infection, used to affect about 500,000 Americans, cause life-threatening diarrhea. Often antibiotics would not treat it, and people would get sicker and sicker, and about 29,000 people a year used to die from it. But now, just one dose of gut bacteria from a healthy person, 1 to 2 doses, 90% cure rate in 2 to 3 days. You're symptom free and you're generally cured for life. So that was a big clue that it helped with that type of gut infection. But we discovered in autism, it's a much more difficult infection to treat. So first we used an antibiotic called vancomycin that's been shown to be very effective at killing off the harmful gut bacteria that are present in many kids with autism. And then we do a bowel cleanse, just like you'd have for a colonoscopy prep, just to flush out any remaining stool or food. And then we use a microbiota, which is highly purified. So it looks just like a probiotic capsule. It's 99% bacteria. It's so incredibly clean that it's odor-free, taste-free. It looks just like a probiotic. The difference is that regular probiotics are only 1 to 10 species, but a healthy person has about 500 species in their gut. So our microbiota transplant has about 500 species from the very top few percent healthiest Americans. People don't have any health conditions and are in extremely good health. And slowly, gradually, we saw improvements in GI symptoms, 80% reduction in GI symptoms in children ages 7 to 16 years who had had these GI symptoms since infancy. And not only that, but initially we saw a nearly 25% reduction in autism symptoms. Just the parents reported the children were better at speaking and better at social interactions with them and just happier. And then we went ahead and published our study, very excited about it. And then a year later, 3 different parents came up to me and said, Professor Adams, my sons continue to do even better. So we did something very rare in science. We followed up with every study participant 2 years after we had treated them. And to our amazement, we found that they continued to improve. The parents said their children were just better able to learn. So over the next 2 years, they learned more language and social interaction and behavior. So at the start of the study, 80% of them were severe. At the end of the study, at 2 years post-treatment, only 20% were severe, 40% mild to moderate, 45% below the cutoff for even mild autism. They still had symptoms, but were greatly improved. And again, just much happier, because what we're doing is we're getting rid of the bacteria that are producing corrupted versions of dopamine and serotonin and interfering with melatonin for sleep. And so we published those results. We've gone on to do 3 more studies, which are also successful for adults and for children. We're now doing 2 more studies. We formed a company, Gut-Brain Axis Therapeutics. We have 140 autism families who have invested in us. We've raised $10 million, and we're now gearing up to get ready for our next final fundraising so we can do a final phase 3 study and get this treatment hopefully approved by the FDA. There's no FDA-approved treatment for the core symptoms of autism to help improve language, social interaction, and we found that our treatment is able to improve not only those, but many co-occurring symptoms, improving sleep, GI symptoms, of course, but improving ADHD, improving just overall mood. The most common thing parents tell us is a child is just happier. And the benefits we followed for up to 2 years in children, up to 18 months in adults post-treatment. The benefits just keep on continuing as time goes on. We had one person who contacted me 8 years after treatment and still doing very well. So it's kind of a quick summary. Let me pause there and see if you have any questions, Shannon.
I mean, the image that I have, I picture our kids, and it's like they have to climb this huge hill, and they have a cart that they have to pull up the hill with them that's filled with things. And as a parent, and you're a parent also, all I can think about is I would want to lighten that load for all the things. And if you can, it's just amazing to consider that if you can clear the pathway for them so that they can get up the hill that much faster, why wouldn't you, right? And this is truly
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to get rid of that gut infection so that way they
Yeah.
can be healthier and then better able to respond to therapies and education and work.
And always, I think it, no matter what we're doing, it has to start with the well-being of that individual. And when you think of all the things you just listed, of them having better sleep, having better understanding of the world around them, having an easier time getting to communication, their mood being happier, these are all, for me, core values that we want for our kids. It's truly miraculous, but it's been a lot of work for you and a lot of patience and a lot of time. I remember when we were talking about this, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, and we were so excited, and you're almost there. You're almost to the point, because right now, if somebody is watching this and they're like, oh my gosh, you're talking about my kid and I want this for them. Correct me if I'm wrong, the only place where they can get the microbiota transplant is with you in your clinic in Arizona. Is that correct?
Yeah, only through our research studies that
Yeah.
the FDA has decided that human gut bacteria are a drug. So they've classified it like a drug. And there are reasons for that. It's possible you could get an infection from someone else. So we screen our donors incredibly carefully, make sure they're in good mental and physical health. They're people who aren't on any medications for anything. They're ideal body weight. They have great diets. So overall, we screen them very carefully.
People? Who are these people? How do they end up having? They're on no medicines. They have nothing going on, and they have healthy. I don't know them, Dr. Adams.
70% of Americans take a medication.
Yes.
And so that rules out 70% of people right there. 40% are overweight. So yeah, you rule out a lot of people very quickly. So we just rely on the very healthiest people who are volunteers. And as we say, that really makes a difference. With C. diff infections, almost anyone can be a donor. But for autism, we've discovered it really matters who the donor is. And so our donor selection is really key. I mean, wouldn't you like to have gut bacteria from the very healthiest people, be able to transfer that gut health to other people and help them be healthy and happy? So that's why we're so excited, because it's just a natural treatment. We're restoring the gut bacteria that should be there.
Yeah.
But we've discovered in many kids with autism, some of them were born by C-section, and you normally inherit most of your gut bacteria from your mother. But if you're born by C-section, you don't get that. Or if you only nursed a short period of time, that's a problem, because mother's milk is such a great nutrient for your gut bacteria. But the biggest challenge we've seen in many of our studies is just high antibiotic use in kids with autism. And that really can devastate the gut. And we think that's really one of the major factors, both in individual children, but generation after generation has been treated with antibiotics, and that's decreasing the diversity of gut bacteria that we have. And the more species of gut bacteria, generally the healthier a person's gut, because there's more ability to metabolize food. And so you want to have a diverse diet, lots of different foods, and lots of different gut bacteria to eat them, because otherwise bad gut bacteria can creep in.
Yeah.
And so having a lot of beneficial species helps prevent illness.
I have so many questions. Is it possible that an individual getting this microbiota transplant down the road, as it repopulates in their system, are they somebody who could later on potentially be a donor as well?
You could consider that, but I don't want to mislead that this is not, because people with autism, by the time we've treated them, because we're treating older children and adults, they've lost years of development. And so although we greatly improve the gut bacteria, and we actually, people after our treatment have more species than a typical person in the US, still I would be cautious about using them as donors unless they really fully seem to recover. And we see a lot of improvements, but I wouldn't necessarily say we're quite that good yet. We'd love to be. But, everyone's a little different too, and that's okay.
Yeah.
We just want to get rid of these gut problems. We've known for over 20 years that about 40% of kids with autism have chronic gut issues, constipation, diarrhea. That's obvious. But now we know it's roughly, many of them also have a hidden gut infection with gut bacteria that don't affect, or yeast that don't affect gut health, but affect brain health. So now we know it's about 85% who need this type of testing to determine it and need treatment to help them.
Amazing. I want to talk a little bit about the moms, because I remember being at a conference once and I was interviewing a bunch of moms at the conference, and this one thing kept coming up, and so at a certain point I asked, there was probably 10 moms I was standing with, and I said, how many of you have autoimmune issues? And they all raised their hands, every single one of them. And then later, there was somebody doing a talk, and they were asking of the parents, how many of the parents had gut issues? Almost everybody raised their hands. And but I know from myself and talking to other parents, we tend to think of that as that's just genetics. Our family has gut issues because I have gut issues, my kid has gut issues, and we're explaining it away that way. But it's sounding like to me that maybe that isn't the story. Maybe.
Well, I'd say it's genetics, but it's not the human genetics. It's the bacterial and yeast genetics that your gut bacteria has about 100 times as many genes as your human genes. So you inherit your human genes from your parents, but you also inherit most of your bacterial and yeast genes from your mother's gut microbiome. So that gets passed on too. But the good news is that we can easily change that with our microbiota transplant and give very healthy gut people if people need it.
And so maybe down the road we can do that for the child, but also for the parents.
Absolutely. So we are now gearing up to test mothers of children with autism too. We have samples collected shortly after birth, and we'd love to be able to test them to see if they have gut health issues as well. As you probably understand better than I do, during pregnancy, you've got a lot of weight on your abdomen, and that can really add to constipation. And so constipation is a risk factor then for developing a gut infection. Really? And so it's not surprising that gut infections are common during pregnancy, and that can be a risk factor.
Fascinating. Okay, so now talking about how going to how we fix them, because I know I wanted to get to talking about supplements with you, because you have some information that's mind-blowing to me, because I'd never heard about this anywhere before, and I want to make sure we talk about it here. You've got some supplements that we can purchase, but I want to be very clear about why, because I just want to say to you guys, this is the first thing I'm going to do when the show is over, is I'm going to go and buy some of these supplements because we got to talk about this a little bit beforehand. So tell everybody what these supplements are and how they're available, and you can't buy them anyplace else, you guys.
Yeah. So we've been doing research studies on vitamins and minerals in kids with autism for 25 years. Because there had been research back in the 70s and 80s showing that high doses of vitamin B6 were beneficial. There's been a lot of interest lately in leucovorin, which again is another B vitamin, just folate. It's just a very high dose of folate. So back in the 70s and 80s, there was a big interest in high doses of B6. Now there's an interest in high doses of natural form of folate. But what we did is we measured the levels of every vitamin and every mineral in children with autism, determined what was low, and then created a comprehensive vitamin and mineral supplement that contains essentially all vitamins and minerals, plus many other micronutrients. We've done clinical trials, randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trials, and showed good benefit. We've now tweaked the formulation as we continue more studies. And we formed a nonprofit 13 years ago. So our nonprofit, autism-nrc.org, offers our vitamin mineral supplement for families. And we sell it directly to families because that way we avoid the middlemen. If we sold it through Amazon, there'd be a substantial increase in price because they want a big cut of what you sell. So we just sell it directly to families from our nonprofit. I don't get a penny in revenues from it. I'm the president of the company, but I don't draw any salary. We just try to keep our research pure. But it helps about 3/4 of children and adults with autism. And Shannon, you were asking about what about for parents? We have had a number of parents, mothers and fathers, who have tried it and found that it seems to help them focus better. So especially with ADHD. In fact, we also had some children with ADHD, and in our survey study, we found that they actually had even more improvement than the autism children, which was great to see. But it's a very powerful supplement. So we recommend people start at a low dose and gradually increase over the course of a month and try it for 3 months. And if they see improvement, keep going. We've had people on it for 5 years or more. And then, but if you don't see improvement after 3 months, then stop. There are several other nutrients too that we can talk about. Let me pause there and see if there are questions on
Yes.
that.
So where do we go to get it? What's
Yeah.
the website? Where do I go?
It's from the Autism Nutrition Research Center. That's our nonprofit. And the website is just autism, and then N for nutrition, R for research, C for center.org. And that's also where a consultant is, that our consultant can also help with general questions about supplements and general advice on treatments, including interpreting our gut health test. But that's just the first part of our comprehensive treatment. We did a 12-month treatment study where we started with a vitamin mineral supplement and added in several others. Over 12 months, we saw the treatment group gain 7 points of IQ versus no change for the group that was not treated. We also saw over 12 months, the untreated group gained 4 months of development because they're developmentally delayed. Our treatment group gained 18 months of development. They began catching up to their peers. So we used what helped just as much as our vitamin mineral supplement is high dose omega-3 fatty acids. And so omega-3s are important for every cell in your body. They're an important part of your brain. There are 12 studies showing kids with autism are low in them, partly because they're not eating fish. That's the main source of it. So if a child with autism isn't eating fish a couple of times a week, we recommend taking a high dose of fish oil. There are 4 studies giving a low dose, showing it helps a little bit. We did a study with a high dose, and it helped a lot. And there's several other ingredients too, but do you want me to keep going?
Yes, keep going. I'm fascinated. Yes, keep going.
Yeah. So we also did a randomized double-blind study of what's called carnitine. Carnitine is what carries, it basically boosts mitochondrial function, which is the little energy factory in every cell in your body. And carnitine, we found, helped about half of children with autism. It was the children who had low levels of it. So it was the children who had the clue of carnitine deficiencies. If a child has low energy, and that's not just physical energy, but also mental energy, because your brain uses the most energy in your body. But also if they're not eating beef products 2 to 3 times a week, because beef is pretty much the only source of carnitine in the diet. There's some in pork, but mostly you get it from beef. Most people can make their own carnitine, but kids with autism, we found about half of them benefit. Just one example, we had a little girl who was so weak she couldn't stand up if she was on the floor. She could not walk up a set of stairs. She could walk short distances, but mostly she was pushed in a wheelchair. When she got carnitine, she was able to climb stairs for the first time. She was able to stand up. She began skipping around the house. She had so much energy. She went on long walks. They put the wheelchair in storage. She learned to ride a bike. It was amazing for her. And so those are clues for a subset of kids with need really high doses of carnitine. And then another important nutrient, the most important one, 90% of kids with autism have very low sulfate. Sulfate is the fourth most common mineral in your body. Calcium's number one, but sulfate's number four. And 90% of kids with autism have very low levels of sulfate. Sulfate is needed to detoxify a lot of things, like Tylenol. In fact, the first test 25 years ago to show that kids with autism were low in sulfate was to give them Tylenol, or the active ingredient in Tylenol, and showed they were much worse at metabolizing it than typical kids. It took a lot longer, and they could metabolize much less of it. So sulfate is very important to give, and it's so easy to give. It's available in Epsom salts. Epsom salts are magnesium sulfate. So just have your child take a bath with Epsom salts, and that will raise sulfate levels substantially. And our vitamin mineral supplement is the only one that we're aware of that has substantial amounts of sulfate. We've done the only study to show that we can boost sulfate levels just from our vitamin mineral micronutrient supplement, that it boosts sulfate levels substantially. The fifth treatment we used was digestive enzymes. There are three major studies, including a large one from Harvard, showing many kids with autism have problems digesting simple sugars, especially the sugar in milk called lactose. And so they're lactose intolerant. And so giving them digestive enzymes like lactase can help them digest that food. So if they're having diarrhea or gas after eating dairy products, then either avoid those products or give them lactase to break it down. And then finally, our most radical treatment was to put kids in a healthy diet. Instead of eating Oreos, we don't recommend they go to gluten-free Oreos. We recommend they go to broccoli and asparagus and apples and oranges. So it's a very radical treatment. It's very hard to implement, but it really, that also was probably the third most important treatment that we implemented. Again, 7-point gain in IQ on average, 18-month gain in development versus 4 months. So that's why we're such strong believers in comprehensive nutrition to support the body's health, at the same time getting rid of the gut infections that are interfering with body health. So,
and I love that you've got a consultant. Yeah, no, that's amazing. I love that you've got a consultant and very low price. I mean, $40 for a half hour, as we all know, that's a very low price for that. But I'm wondering, is there yet a book that's like a how-to for parents?
Yeah. So we have both on a website there, we have the ANRC treatment guidelines that says, first 30 days, do this dose of the vitamin supplement, and then later on start the fish oil, later on start the carnitine, later on start the healthy diet. So we walk it out in detail, so it's free and downloadable from our website. What we've also done is we've created an app. So if you have an iPhone, then you can just go and look up what's called the ANRC treatment rater. And we surveyed 1,200 autism families. And we asked them to rate the benefits of every medication, every supplement, every diet, every therapy. We published 3 papers on this. So you can look up most psychiatric medications or seizure medications, see what symptoms they benefited and what adverse effects there were. You can also search by symptom. So if your child has, say, aggression, you can look up what's the top-rated treatment for aggression, or look up what's the top-rated treatment for sleep or GI disorders. So we've made it, again, free and available from Apple's App Store.
Amazing. It's a lot of information, and I know sometimes a parent can feel like they're drowning, but if we were to just backtrack and say, here's what to do first, I would assume it's do the test. Would I be right?
You could. Usually we recommend first do the vitamin mineral supplement.
Okay.
Because that also helps improve gut health. And so I would do that first. And although you could spend $1,000 to see if you really need it, it just makes much more sense to just try it for 3 months and see if you see benefit. Just start at a low dose. That's important. Not everyone follows our directions, because it is a very high strength supplement. You need to gradually increase, and that helps your body make its own neurotransmitters. And we think that's a lot safer. We've seen from our surveys from families that in general, the nutritional interventions are a lot safer and actually more beneficial on average than the average of 27 psychiatric medications.
Yeah.
Not saying not to use those, but I'm saying first I like to try to nutrition, give the body what it's missing. Our bodies, may have a deficiency of a vitamin. They don't have a deficiency for Ritalin.
And not to put too fine of a point on it, but before, you didn't know, and you could spend thousands of dollars getting all of these supplements, but you've put this all into one. Now, does your supplement also have the carnitine and the omega in it as well, or that's separate?
We do those separately because not everyone needs them.
Okay.
And the fish oil is an oil capsule, so you need a lot of that. So we have a deal with Nordic Naturals, so we get a discount from them that we pass on to autism families. But so Nordic Naturals is what we use in our studies, but you can test other fish oils too. Just smell them. If they smell bad, they are bad. Your nose is very good at detecting the quality of a fish oil. But Nordic Naturals is the one we have on our website. Carnitine, there are a number of good brands. We don't sell one, but there are a number of good brands out there to use.
For families, I know this is going to sound weird, but we have families that the entire family is vegan, and we have families where only the kid on the spectrum, they refuse any kind of meat or fish. Is there something that they can take?
Yes. So if they're vegan and they don't want fish oil, fish don't produce omega-3 fatty acids. They get it from the algae that they eat. So there are algae sources. There's also flaxseed and some other seeds, but those omega-3s are harder to digest, harder to convert. So we think algae sources would be best for people who are vegan. But if they're vegan, they're at high risk of low levels of carnitine, low levels of omega-3s, and low level of vitamin B12. So those people need to be extra careful.
And I read something recently that said that choline is potentially there's a deficit with vegans. Is that something you've heard as well?
Yes, the main source of choline, one of the biggest sources, is eggs. Eggs are tremendous sources of choline. That's why we include some choline in our supplement as well.
Okay.
Choline is important for a building block, an important neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. So you have to have choline to make that neurotransmitter.
Okay. And I had asked you this before we came on the air because I know, your reputation is sterling. So these supplements are very clean, gluten-free, dairy-free, casein-free. So if they're already doing that diet, it's not going to have it. One of the things you said in the test, and I meant to ask this and then I forgot, if a child does the test and they're already on a gluten-free, casein-free diet, is it still going to tell them if they're a good candidate for it, or will it not detect?
No, what the urine test does is it measures, so gluten and casein are large molecules, and normally your body's digestion should break it down into individual amino acids. But if they show up in your urine, it tells you your body didn't digest it. It also tells you had leaky gut, and they leaked out of the gut into the rest of the body to come out in the urine. So if you have a positive test, you really should go on the diet. But it only tests for the ability to digest them. Some people have other problems with gluten and casein. They can have an allergic reaction to it. They can have other reactions. So if you get a positive on our test, you should definitely go on the diet. But you can still benefit from the diet from other reasons. So it's not completely definitive. If you get a negative result, you still might benefit from the diet.
But if you're already on the diet, is it going to detect it?
It should not show up.
Okay.
But we had one person who was on the diet. She just gave an hour talk with me saying, well, she was sort of on the diet, but it wasn't quite good enough because her son also went to dad's house. And so when they discovered that, they then went very clean, and then it really made a difference. So they were partially on the diet, but it showed up still when they went on a very strict diet that it made a difference.
Wow.
So we'll help you know if there are hidden sources.
Okay.
Like who would know that raisins are dusted with wheat flour?
What? I didn't know
To
that.
keep the raisins from sticking together.
Oh,
So
no.
it doesn't show up on a package label.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay, so we're about to be out of time, but we've already talked to Dr. Adams about doing a part 2 of this in about a month. So we're going to try to hold him to that. He's a very busy man. But just to recap, where do they want to go to order the test and order the supplements?
So the test can be ordered from our lab in the UK. It's called Analutos, so short for analyte. So ANALUTOS.com. So any parent can go and order it from there.
I need you to spell it for me one more time. A-N.
Yeah. ANAL, so anal, ANALUTOS.com.
Okay.
Anyone can go there, order the gut health test. They'll ship it anywhere in the world. And it's just simple urine collection. And we'll let you know if you have a bacterial or gut infection that 80% of kids with autism have, but often don't have symptoms of it.
Okay. ANALUTOS.com, you guys. That's where you go to order the test. The test will be shipped to you. It's a urine sample. You send it back, you'll get the result. Then we're going to want to go and talk to your consultant. But before that, even, the advice is, let's go. I'm going to get the supplements today. So where do I need to go for that?
Autism, N for nutrition, R for research, C for center.org.
.org. Okay. So autism
we have it available in both a powder form and a capsule form. Vitamins have a very strong flavor, so we recommend the capsules if possible, but the capsules are big. So we have a powder version, unflavored if you want to mix it with a strong juice. But we also now have a flavored version. It's an orange mango. Tastes like Tang, if you've ever had Tang before.
That's a certain generation, isn't it?
Certain generation,
very
I'm afraid.
memorable. It's what the astronauts drank.
Yep.
Tang, that was what we were always told. Okay, cool. So I go to autismnrc.org to get that.
That's right.
And we will have Dr. Adams back in about a month, sometime around then, to share even more. But thank you so much for the work that you've been doing and for taking time out of your busy day to be here with us, to share this with us, because I don't know how else we would know it. So I so appreciate you. And if you guys, I know a lot of you are going to be listening in podcasts and you're going to have questions. Feel free to send those questions to me, Shannon, at autism-live.com. And I promise I'll forward them all to you. I'll try to batch them so you get all the questions at the same time, Dr. Adams. Shannon at autism-live.com. And maybe we'll just answer the questions in part 2. Sound good? Is there anything we forgot to get to today, knowing that we're going to have a part 2?
I think you've done a great job covering a lot.
Well, you're the one who covered it. I just sat here and asked the ridiculous questions, but oh my gosh, I learned a lot. I'm very excited about what this might mean for families. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me, and many thanks to the thousands of families who have donated to our research and participated in our studies. It's a partnership.
I love that. All right. Well, thank you. And we will look forward to scheduling part 2. All right.
Sounds great.
You take care. We're past time, you guys. So I'm just going to go, but I want to remind you it's April and we're doing watch on our Facebook channel every day. We're releasing Monday through Friday. We're releasing an oldie but a goodie or a new video, and you'll see that all on Facebook. And on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we're going to be doing live shows. We have Dr. Doreen next week on Tuesday. And on Wednesday, we have the epic IEP lady. I don't know if you've watched her videos. I am an addict. and can't get enough of her. And I can't believe she's going to be here on the show. So that's next Wednesday. You won't want to miss that. But watch all the other stuff that we're doing on Facebook. And we'll be back with one of those tomorrow, World Autism Awareness Day. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much. See you next time.